This is Sidney Crosby, and at the end of last season, it was a very dark time in Pittsburgh. A third straight year without Pittsburgh or Crosby in the NHL playoffs created a lot of uncertainty of the future of the franchise. Between bottoming out and having no real clear direction of where this team is heading, there were rumors that Sidney Crosby was going to be shipped out of town in pursuit of getting one more Stanley Cup. Of course, that was shut down repeatedly by GM Kyle Dubas as well as Crosby himself, and the Penguins went to work to retool the team. With a couple new offseason signings and a new rookie head coach in Dan Muse, a lot of people had this team pinned to be in the lottery conversation at the beginning of the season. The expectations were not high whatsoever, but fast forward to present day, and the Penguins are on the verge of making the NHL playoffs. No one saw this coming, and what may be the last time this core has a shot in the dance, it may actually be a pretty good one. So how the hell did they turn this all around? How does Sidney Crosby still look and play like he's in his damn prime? And how has Dan Muse maximized the strengths of this roster? Well, let's take a look. First, judging by the roster construction of this team, it's very clear they weren't going to completely rebuild, especially when they still have Crosby, Malkin, Carlson, and Letang. So the work had to come around the edges, and it did with players like Anthony Mantha, Ben Kindle, Igor Chinnikov, and more. But the biggest difference with this team is how they approach the game tactically as a whole. Pittsburgh is one of the better offensive teams in the league this season. They're in the top 10 in offense and at times flirting with the top 5. The best offensive teams can score in multiple ways, and arguably the most important way in today's NHL is the forecheck. We know the NHL is a copycat league. Teams take from the previous success models and implement it into their own game, which is smart because the Penguins took a page right out of Florida's forecheck with the rim and double pressure. We highlighted this big time in Florida's Cup run last year, and here is how it works. Once the offensive team gains the red line, they send a hard rim along the boards to the far side defender. Now, since most NHL D pairings have a lefty playing left defense and a righty playing right defense, when that defender goes to try and pick up the rimmed puck, they have to do so on their backhand. With no pressure, that's tough, but when you're faced with double pressure with an F1 and F2 closing in, it becomes damn near impossible unless you're extremely prepared for what's coming up. This was part of the foundation of Florida's otherworldly forecheck that won them 2 Stanley Cups. Pittsburgh has since adopted this, as you see the puck carrier here recognize that there's no clean entry with 2 Red Wings closing in off the blue line. So here comes the hard rim. Now the left defenseman for Detroit has to turn back and corral this puck along the dasher on his backhand. He's met with instant pressure from F2, which forces him down the wall right into the trap of F1. Now Pittsburgh has their forecheck established. F3 is there for support, Penguins in possession, and it creates a pretty good scoring chance. This type of forecheck is so effective even when you go up against elite defenders on their offside. Watch here as the Penguins set up the rim play, and retrieving it is going to be Miro Heiskanen. Heiskanen is one of the best puck-moving and skating defensemen in the world. He's picking up this rim on his forehand, so it's even a little bit easier for him. But because the Penguins execute this forecheck flawlessly, Heiskanen has nowhere to go. There's a Penguin here, here, and here. All avenues are covered. Penguins eventually win possession and again get a solid chance off of their forecheck. The numbers reflect this as well, as when you look at their forechecking pressures and recovered dump-ins, a good chunk of the Penguins forward group are average or above. However, the biggest difference in this year's team under Dan Muse is how they're extending their ozone pressure. Under Mike Sullivan, the Pittsburgh Penguins played some fantastic hockey. They won 2 cups under his charge and had a lot of success. But near the end, it was evident that a change was needed, especially with this aging core. Team speed with the Penguins isn't anything special. There hasn't actually been much change between this year and last year. They're about middle of the pack in terms of overall team speed. But where their philosophy has changed is how they want to dictate the pace of the game. The Penguins want to be proactive instead of reactive in their attack, and here's what I mean. The last few years under Mike Sullivan, he tried to curb the lack of overall team speed by having the Penguins as a whole play a bit more passive on the forecheck and in the neutral zone. In the Ozone, if 3 Penguins forwards were caught deep, Pittsburgh's defense would back right off and try and defend the rush, which is something they weren't really good at considering their personnel at the time, and the fact that their forwards' foot speed just isn't quick enough to come back and break up a play. this year, instead of backing off, the Penguins D love to short the zone. Shorting the zone is when both defenders move further into the Ozone to shrink the space available. This actually plays right into the strength of not only Sidney Crosby, but Erik Karlsson as well. Crosby, for as long as he's been in this league, has always been the most dangerous below the goal line. His edge work and puck protection make him extremely hard to defend, and so when he's on the ice, the Penguins thrive by attacking in these triangles down low. Because they like to play below the goal line, teams and their defensive structures are forced to collapse, as we see here against Dallas. So even when the defending team gets possession, that possession is snuffed out right away instead of the other team having a chance to break out for a rush against. Not only does this keep them in the offensive zone, but it also creates better looks out of their offense down low. They can either pressure and step down the wall to hammer the puck back down low to Crosby and sustain play, or they can provide a quick kick-out option from below the goal line to go low to high and T1 on net with the available space. This has been just the perfect fit for Erik Karlsson. One of the best offensive D-men of his generation. His natural instinct is to play on his toes. Even here, watch him short the zone and hang on the half wall with this stalled puck. As soon as it pops out, he drives right into the middle, creates a chance, and eventually also creates a goal. Naturally, being more aggressive, you can just see in Karlsson's reads how much more comfortable and confident he is playing the game on the attack. Even when it comes to holding the line in general, Pittsburgh is okay with their D holding the zone to maintain pressure, as we see here from Parker Wotherspoon. Dallas looks like they could potentially break out and even have a winger getting behind both the D-men and Karlsson and Wotherspoon, but they're going to actually hold the line together, and off a turnover, Pittsburgh can catch Dallas vulnerable. Karlsson steps in, and it's good night, Jim Kite. Now, obviously, this does need to be tempered too. When you're this aggressive up ice, you have to pick your spots and ensure that if it's a 50-50 play, there is a high of 3 or support man in place there to cover to avoid a big odd man rush. The Penguins and their forwards are pretty good at this through all 4 lines, and it allows them to execute their system rather consistently. When it comes to 5-on-5 offense, the Penguins are one of the best teams in the league, ranking 3rd in goals for, and it's because they also have the fluidity with their possessions high in the zone as well. The popular 2-3 Ozone strategy is a part of Pittsburgh's philosophy, which only empowers a player like Erik Karlsson even more. Stepping off the line, he demands defenses to gravitate towards him, and having a third forward swing up high to provide another option gives Pittsburgh more dangerous looks. Flat out, the Penguins have become a more dangerous offensive team because of how well they forecheck and how they extend their time in the offensive zone, both with and without the puck. Now, being this aggressive and letting their offense fly doesn't come without a price. Defending when 5-on-5 is a challenge for them. They rank 20th in the league in terms of overall goals against. So anytime you take risks in the offensive zone, you do leave yourself open for counterattacks against, which is an area of Pittsburgh that can get exposed. However, that is the price that they're willing to pay. They're okay with making a mistake in the effort of being aggressive and trying to attack the game. It's a subtle shift both tactically and psychologically for this Penguins team that has completely reinvigorated the team and allowed their best players to play into their strength. The last wild card for this team is goaltending. Earlier in the season, Penguins moved on from Shanghai Jari and brought in Stuart Skinner. At times, it has been up and down between Skinner and Shilovs. Numbers-wise, neither have really had a good season, with both having below a .900 save percentage. But if the Penguins make it into the playoffs, both goalies have shown in the past that they could get hot, especially Stuart Skinner, who at times in his 2 cup runs with Edmonton looked incredible. For the last few years, the objective of this organization has been to give this core and Sidney Crosby one last chance at a Stanley Cup. It's possible that this is the last time we see it with this core group. It's taken a new coach with a fresh look, but it looks like they will reach that goal. And once playoffs start, anything can happen, especially with Sidney Crosby leading your team. So, what do you think of the Pittsburgh Penguins? Do you think that they have a chance to go all the way this season? Let me know in the comments down below. And also, check out Jock Hand's The Hockey Tactics Playbook for 2026. We use it as a reference on this channel for our breakdowns. It is a great book for anyone who's looking to get into the tactical side of hockey. It's a great way to understand all the nuances of the game. I highly recommend checking it out in our description down below. You can get the book. So check it out there. And as always, we got breakdowns and recaps coming coming going into the NHL playoffs, throughout the NHL playoffs. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing.